All right.
Oh my God.
Recorded?
Oh, let me record. Yeah.
All right. Great. So always happens. So I was like the awkward couple seconds before open up the YouTube. See who comes on, see who wants to join us. Being recorded. Okay, got it. Heard. Let me put this volume down. Oh shoot. Good.
I know. Logging on is awkward.
Being online. Remember our videos? Jeez. You're like, smile. I'm like,
Okay.
all right. Well, while we wait for people to come on. Hello, everybody. I don't know why I say that like that. Good evening, everyone. I'm Karen from Quantum Healing with Tena and Karen, and today I'm with my lovely co-host Tina.
Hello.
And we are hopping on. Sorry, it's been a minute. We were on vacation last week, and yeah, taking some time off just to get back into nature and get offline a little bit and have some family time out at the beach, which was exciting. And well, obviously I'm back home and I'm going to go back on vacation again on Friday. So, a lot of July is just like jumping in and out. So we're going to talk about if we're being farmed by insectoids or something.
Yeah.
I didn't get the memo. Go ahead.
Well, it's just interesting because the subject of insects was coming up a lot today. And then I just happened upon this article called, "Are We Being Farmed by Insectoid Aliens?" And we were talking in our Telegram group about how a lot of times when insects, like invasive kind of insects, are showing up in our physical reality, that's a sign that something is going on energetically that needs to be cleared. Yesterday, for me, for example, I walked outside my front door and my deck was being swarmed by wasps.
Just yours?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's obvious. They're so obvious.
Yeah. So I knew, see, and this is what we were talking about also, is how, like, when they can't get to you anymore with emotional triggers, their attempts become more and more like ridiculous. So they'll come at you with like a swarm of wasps or like,
yeah,
or send, like, for me, it's something like that, or they'll like send me packages in the mail with like mold in them, or like just stupid things because they can't get that reaction out of me anymore. Because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to initiate that emotional trigger so that opens you up into a point of vulnerability where they can then hook in and feed off of that energy.
it's true. The only time, sorry, that I ever see you have like big reactions, which is usually not ever, was when like that bug was on your head. That was the only time, and it scared me because you like swatted at it and just the wind from the hand. Like, I was just like, whoa.
Well, yeah, there's been a lot of insects around, and very like ones I've never seen before. Yesterday, besides the wasp, which they cleared, after I cleared the energy, the wasps disappeared.
Interesting.
And yeah, it is interesting, right? And there was this huge beetle. It was like this big and it was yellow. And it was so loud, like the buzzing from it. And it was like just like bouncing off of the screen on the door. And I'm like, oh my, and every time I walked outside, I was like getting buzzed by these insects. Like, what is happening?
It's true. I don't know. We had like a couple of encounters with roaches, but not that one time in the house, but it had nothing to do with your apartment. Remember, it was just crawling between us and we like fucking jumped. And yeah, and then the other time when we were just outside on the deck, there was another roach there that was like hanging out under my feet. And I was like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah. Yeah, they can really be signs of what's going on energetically. like someone in our group today was saying, you know, she has a lot going on in her home with attacks, working through family members and things like that. And she mentioned like the ants that are in her bathroom. And I'm like, you know, we really have to pay attention to these physical signs of psychic attacks that are happening, because they can be signs that something energetically is going on. Like, you know, that when you start seeing spiders in your apartment, that it needs to be cleared.
Yeah. I mean, like I live in a basement apartment, but I usually like my kids will find them. They're like, "Oh, there's a spider," you know, and I'm like, "Well, what kind is it?" That it's usually the what kind. And they're like, "Oh, it's the big body with the thin legs." I don't care about the daddy long legs. Like they're cool. They just want to chill. But the problem is when I see the thick fucking ones. Like remember that picture that I showed you in the kitchen of that big mother? It was so big. It was so fast too. I'm sure it was like fake and remote controlled. Like it had to be. And I couldn't get it. I was like, you know what? Like Tina's like, she'll save them. I'm like, not when they're big and hairy. And I was like, nope, I'm not, I don't have time for this. I turned on the goddamn hot water. I didn't care. I was like, I know this is not a real spider. Like, this is shit fake.
Well,
Um,
yeah, and those lantern bugs too that are really creepy. I mean, they definitely look like a DARPA invention to me. They do not seem.
the spider, the ladybug spider.
Yeah, the ladybug spider. Yeah. If you guys seen them, they're really creepy.
Right.
They're called lantern bugs. They start out as small. They kind of look a little bit like a spider, but they're not. And they like walk sideways and they fly and they do all these kinds of strange things. And they molt and turn into red. Like they have like a red back with black dots and they get bigger. Um, yeah, and they can walk sideways and all
Yeah,
kinds of
that's
things, but
fucking weird
they're
because
very invasive. And when you do kill them, there's no guts inside. Like it's just, there's nothing there. Like they're robots or something, which I really think they are. I really think there's some kind of DARPA invention and
yeah,
just like an experiment to unleash on the population and see what happens, you know?
yeah, it's gross.
Yeah.
Yeah, they go sideways. They're like fucking hammer time it. Like, I'm like, oh my god, get out of here. But yeah, I haven't seen, knock on wood, like the furry hairy ones since. And that's usually there's a sign that I have like entities around or whatever, which I haven't seen. But I remember that time when I did see that jumbo mama. And I live in northern, like I'm in Canada. Like there's no, we don't have jumbo mamas here. So there was that. And then one time I saw it on my closet. And then I saw one on that disappeared. And then it was on the wall, like in the hallway. And then another time I saw it like near my bed. So I was like, okay, I don't know what's happening. Or do you remember that time like when the spider was coming down? It happened 2 times to me where I saw a spider up on the thing. Like I never look up there. I saw it. And then I was even thinking in my head, it probably heard me telepathically. I'm like, I go, that would suck if it comes down like on a little web.
Like Charlotte's Web.
And it fucking did. It did that. Like I saw it like coming down here and I was like, oh my God. And I blew it. I went, and it went, and it was coming around. I was like, fuck. It was horrible. Like I can't mean insects. But yesterday I went to the washroom and I saw a little potato bug. And I was like, so can you just go home and I won't touch you. I'm not gonna kick you out. Like just I won't charge you for rent. Like just go. When I come back here, you're not gonna be here. And I came back and it was gone. So I was like, you go on your merry way, and I will too. So
I feel bad killing insects. It's not their fault. Like they're not, you know, they're just living their
but
lives.
it's the program. It's just it's just gross.
Right. It's a program that they're gross. So I really, unless they're invading my personal space, they don't bother me, you know, and I actually really love the bees and the butterflies, even the wasps. I mean, they don't scare me, but when you're, being surrounded and kind of swarmed by them, you don't want them in your space. They're invading your space. So then the question becomes, when is it okay to kill them? Like we were talking about in group today. Like I generally don't kill bugs unless I have to. Like last year, when it was actually last summer when I was under attack, and my apartment somehow got filled with flies.
Oh yeah.
There was like probably 100 of them. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually had to hang like one of those fly strips to catch them, which I hated doing because I don't like to see anything suffer, and like die that way. But I didn't know what else to do. Like how, like when they're invading your space in that way, like you have to do something about it to protect yourself. Otherwise, if it's just like a fly or two in my apartment, I'll catch it and take it outside or whatever. But yeah, I think when it becomes invasive, either we have to get really creative with how to get rid of them, or, might even have to kill them. Otherwise, like with the wasp yesterday, I did a quick search for how to naturally get rid of them. And I found out that by cutting slices of cucumber and putting it on a piece of aluminum foil, it's been found to like release a chemical reaction that only the wasps can pick up on, and it deters them.
How the fuck do people figure these things out?
I don't know.
The wasps were like, okay, so what is your kryptonite? Like,
Yeah.
they're like, don't cut up cucumber and put it on that aluminum. Damn. That's fucking weird.
Yeah. And then there was like some essential oil sprays that you can combine together, which I made like a spray and did the deck with that. And then
I thought you just like put aluminum everywhere with cucumber, like
no, but
everywhere.
I did do that.
Did it work?
Yeah. Yeah. I think the energy clearing of it is what ultimately worked, but I think sometimes you have to use physical tools too. I think it's really your intention behind it that is the most meaningful, right? So, everything that we see in our physical reality is a reflection of what's happening energetically. So if we see that there are insects here, we know that there are other insects in other realms, and the potential for those insects to be the insectoid beings, to be the ones that are actually farming us and look at us like we look at ants, which is quite ironic.
Indeed.
And we do see a lot of insectoid-like beings in our sessions, especially like the mantis beings and things like that, that are ultimately, running the abductions and things like that.
Yeah.
And the parasites, which I remember the one time we were supposed to meet with someone for an interview, and I got really sick out of nowhere. Remember that? And you viewed my field, and there was an insectoid injecting me with something.
It was a big ant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting just to see like the parallels between what happens in the physical and what's happening energetically.
Yeah, we've seen an increase in like interdimensional parasites and just parasites in general, eggs, parasitic eggs. For people who have the shot, usually. Yeah.
Yeah, and the parasites are really interesting too, which we talked about before, about how like someone posted in a group today the video of the praying mantis that was taken over by a parasite, and it's literally using her body and keeping it alive so that it can eventually like get to water, get out in the water, and then it has the potential to mate and reproduce that way. So learning about parasites was a big revelation for me, and how they work inside of insects, and seeing how they really can control their behavior And then realizing that if that's true for insects, that must also be true for humans and animals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not only physically on a physical level, but the energetic ones too. Like someone shared that she was recently, diagnosed with COVID. But I think what eventually she found out was that her body was actually riddled with these AI leeches that were sucking her life force energy, causing the actual symptoms.
We saw leeches too recently.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yeah. My eyes are just dry.
How are you guys? Oh my God, Sam. Sam says, I used to keep bees. I did a trick where I stuck my head in a bowl of them to freak people out, but never got stung. Good, because they probably trusted you, right? We were just talking about bees the other day in group and how like we're so conditioned to be afraid of them especially as children. And that conditioning goes throughout adulthood. I remember last year I was at a pool party and this little bee had landed on me and I could tell that it got wet and it couldn't fly. So instead of like freaking out, I just let it like crawl around on my swimsuit and stood in the sun until like its wings could dry and it could fly away. But everyone else was like totally freaking out. Like it's a bee, it's gonna like kill you, which is it's such a deep conditioning and it's just not true. I had a really cute one that was like taking a nap on one of my on my strawberry plant last week, and it was the cutest thing. I didn't know that bees took naps, but they do.
Killer bees. Isn't it like Wu-Tang Clan?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Hi, Joanna. Hi, Maureen. Hi, Seeking Truth. Maureen said there's a parasite infecting bees in Newcastle, north of Sydney.
Mm.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's unfortunate. For me, it's like the bugs, like when they go really close to your head and all you hear is the buzzing in your ear. That makes me.
Yeah, because you can hear it, but you can't see what it is.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's instinctively or just like.
Yeah. I think it's really like an instinct that you can't control. You just like,
Yeah, it's just like what the
yeah.
the vibration. It's so loud. I find it so loud.
Mm-hmm. Even with the hummingbirds that come by, like
Oh
they
yeah, you hear it
vibrate.
go like it's a yeah, that those are really cool. We saw a couple of those cool ones that just kind of like stopped right in front of us to like say hello and then went on its way.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think we have to pay attention to our points of vulnerability, because if we have like a big emotional opening, that sets the stage for entities to come in and then set off a series of events in our life to keep that emotional trigger going. So like when you see weird things happening in your physical reality, like for example, your neighbor like starts screaming and yelling at you, or someone in the grocery store, or like whatever it is, like, or you get into like an argument with somebody online, like that just blows up out of nowhere, like that there are entities that are creating these situations in order to get an emotional reaction out of you to feed on. So we have to be aware of where our vulnerabilities are, and especially in the world today where everything in our outer world is set up to elicit an emotional trigger.
Mm-hmm.
know, whether it's a war or the abortion issue or like whatever it is. And for sensitives, like most of you watching here are really highly sensitive. I think it's important to really disconnect from it all, even in the alternative communities, because there's a lot of misinformation that's going on there as well,
Much.
and a lot of division.
I haven't even watched the news. I have you seen? I mean, I we randomly sometimes put it on the TV, but not really. Just to observe what's going on, but that we haven't even done that in months.
Yeah.
But even at that, I have no idea what's going on here. I saw a couple of articles, but like there's a backup on the passports, and a lot of people who have booked like or have tried to apply for their passports months and months and months in advance before their trips. So they've all done it in the beginning, like or the end of winter, like beginning of this year, so that they can go on vacation now. And some of them haven't even gotten their passports yet. But it makes me think. I'm like, because we've seen so many freaking zombies because of the shot. Like, is production just, is it do or okay, number one, is the country doing it on purpose, like saying like we don't want people to travel so that they stay in here and we lock them in? Number two, are people just that gone zombie like? And because I mean, well, you guys heard our story from last time with the two little gals that couldn't even take our order at the carnival or whatever the hell that was. It like that. Like, is that what we're working with? I know that a lot of the work ethic is not there as, how we used to be, I guess. Well, I don't know at what point that it died off.
I think it's been a slow death.
Yeah. Because now it's like all we're left with. I mean, you see that there's jobs everywhere. So, of course, they like killed it, by giving everybody all these fancy checks, during the pandemic. And then now who the hell wants to work? Nobody. And so there's a lot of jobs that are available, but the quality is not there. And people can't stay because it's too much work and the pressure's on. So they can't take it because it's not easy, right?
Wow.
So there's that. And so, I mean, there's like a lot of factors that are happening. And I'm like, I don't even know. Like, I don't know.
I was
A
just,
lot of it is zombies, I think.
yeah, and I was just watching, I don't know, I fell into this like rabbit hole of teachers that are quitting because the environment that they're trying to teach in is just so difficult right now because they, as teachers, can't do anything right anymore. They're not allowed to discipline the children like at all. They're not allowed to like withhold recess for them or make them sit out. They're not even allowed to like make them write. You know how you used to have to write like 20 times, like, I will not, blah, 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 or whatever it is.
It's not like you're hitting them.
No, like you,
No
they're
consequence to any action.
the children are not, they have no consequences. It's the teacher's fault for everything. The parents have no consequences and the children have no consequences. And if the parents like call the school, they don't stand up and support the teachers. They will always take the side of the child who is just like being an entitled brat and doesn't want to take responsibility for anything. So the teachers are literally like so spent. I listened to this one talk and it was so sad. She's just like, I had to, she's like, in order to engage my students who would much rather be on TikTok or playing Fortnite, I had to constantly be in a state of like happy, happy, joy, joy, like super positive all the time, just to even grab their attention a little bit and have them do their work. But most of them just refuse to do it because it's just boring and they don't know how to be bored because we are cultivating a culture of like ADD. I mean, you have 10-second TikTok videos that they're used to that constant stimulation. I mean, TikTok is really it's a tool that's being used to dumb down society, to dumb down the culture. And you see the effects everywhere, especially like with the new, which we talked about last time, is um, the rise in this like fake mental illness and the whole like trans thing and the identity thing and like all of that. It's breeding a really, really sick society, and it's just basically crumbling. Like we see society just crumbling before our eyes right now.
Oh yeah.
Which is probably making these insectoids really happy, because they have a lot to feed from.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, we watched a really good video by Saratoga Ocean, that like the last one that we saw together. I thought that was really well done. In explaining like where we're going, like with the false world and all of that, and how the controllers are, pretty brilliant in what they've done to completely divide and tear us apart. And as long as you have the good side or the bad side, they don't give a shit what side you're on as long as you're fighting about it.
Yeah.
It's the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's exactly what's happening for everything.
Yeah. So I thought it would be interesting just to scroll through this article. Should I bring it up? Share it?
As you wish.
Hold on. Wait, that's not it. Hold on. How are you guys tonight? How is everyone? Anyone having any weird stuff going on with their pets the last few weeks? Or animal friends? So I've noticed this really strange pattern that has happened the last 2 years. And I wanted to ask you guys if you've noticed it in your reality at all, but in my reality, the same time last year, I thought my dog was going to die again. Like he keeps going through these cycles of unexplained symptoms. It feels like some kind of energetic, possibly a weapon, possibly another like ramp up in a wave of like 5G or maybe specifically targeting animals. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's affecting the animals. And just last week when Coco was really sick again, I had like several acquaintances and friends that also had very sick dogs and either ended up having to euthanize or they were just like really, really sick. One bleeding from the ears. The ears are a common connection. Coco was like, he was getting up like every hour during the night and running around back and forth, shaking his head like there was something in his ears. And it made me think about all the people that have like vertigo and ringing in the ears and things like that. And we know that dogs are even extra sensitive when it comes to their hearing and ears. And so what could be happening there? So for a dog to be bleeding from his ears and then for another one to just having the constant head shaking and the running around and like he was in
It's
pain.
both ears too, the bleeding, that's not normal.
Right. Right. And we know that Rafa is a really sensitive. See, there are levels of sensitivity in animals too. Like Rafa and Coco are very highly sensitive dogs. Not all dogs are that sensitive. Not all cats are that sensitive. Every animal is different. But they seem to have some kind of sensitivity where they not only are they picking up on whatever is happening energetically, but they're also very connected to their humans. But yeah, just really strange behavior, neurological symptoms like head tilt and stumbling, confusion. Then there's the ear thing, the ear pain, ear bleeding, and things like that. And it's literally the same exact thing and time last year that it happened. And last year I remember like being at the vet and the girls were like astonished that they had to put 9 dogs down that day. And I just felt so lucky because I knew that it was some kind of attack. So I was at least able to support and protect Coco in a way that would get him through that. And we did get through that. And he ended up being like, okay, until again, like this year when it's happening again. Um, it's also very interesting that, you know, because the vet was saying, well, you know, maybe it's an ear infection, which he had no outward signs of an infection. His ears look fine. There's no redness. There's no swelling. There's no anything. It's just, it seems like they're constantly bothering him. So I asked her, like, we went through all the options, antibiotics, like all the things. And finally I was like, well, what about parasites? Like, could this be parasite related? And she's like, well, you know, and I appreciated her because she didn't shoot it down, but she was like, you know, stranger things have happened, because when they think parasites, they think digestion. You know, they think intestinal parasites. They're not knowing or thinking that parasites could be in the brain or anywhere else in the body. But, you know, as a last resort, after I did everything else, I gave Coco an ivermectin. And the very next day, he bounced back. Like, I mean, you saw him. He was eating and drinking on his own. Like, he hadn't even, like, nothing had even happened. So I'm wondering if there's some kind of, again, a connection there, like with the parasites, because he did fine for a couple days. And then the symptoms started to come back again until I gave him another ivermectin, and he has slowly gotten better since.
Yeah, you're probably gonna have to continue a regimen like that for him.
Yeah. So there's some kind of connection here with parasites, with the energy, with whatever is going out into the collective. The funny thing about it is, like, the stuff with CERN was also going on, like, in that grouping of times in the last couple of weeks. So, yeah. Yes, pets do take on energies from their owners. Oh, Maureen says her dog Squidgy started head bobbing. 3 seizures in 1 day last week.
Wow. It's so sad.
Sam says I had a dog die the other day, but he was 13.
Sorry to hear that, Sam.
I'm so sorry, Sam. Yeah, well, Coco's 16 and a half. I have to say that he's 16 and a half, but I could feel that he's not dying. Like, that's the thing. There's nothing else like wrong with him. There was an attack happening.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And yeah, I think
I probably didn't feel it either. I didn't feel his dying either. Like, I was just like, I don't know. This is bullshit. It's like, it's not, I don't feel it. Because, like, I was telling Tina during that time, because she was, like, obviously really emotionally affected. And I was, like, feeling it. And I was like, no, I don't feel like this is his time to go. I go, because I knew I felt it with her other dog, Bud. I knew it was time for him because my body felt it too. This time I was like, no, there's just some fucking shit going on.
yeah. When he started with the neurological symptoms, that's when I got really worried. Like, that's when.
Yeah, the confusion, because we were even looking into dementia, maybe. There's a couple of things, like, we were looking at everything.
Right, and I ordered him all these supplements for dementia.
Well, it's still good to have because he's still
right.
an older dog. So, I mean, you could still give it to him. It's not bad for him.
Right, but the symptoms went away.
Yeah, just in case.
I know it's good to have, but that's not a normal thing, like, for dementia. Like, that felt to me like it was induced by some kind of frequency or some kind of technology, you know, on something inorganic.
Yeah, definitely. And if we're like, your apartment's like in a soup of like frequencies, and we have seen energetically, like, things coming in on the waves. So, I mean, there's a lot of possibilities that were going on there that could have activated whatever within him, or shot at him, or silent weapons, or frequencies, like anything.
Right, because I was feeling it too. And I think that you know, and he's even more sensitive than I am, and he can't express what he's feeling either. So it makes it that much harder to try to guess what's happening.
And also just treat everything.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Dr. House when he's like, all right, put him on broad spectrum antibiotics. Like, just put him on everything.
Yeah, because how do you protect them from something like that? It's invisible, you know, you can't see it. You don't, unless you put them in a Faraday cage. And
Yeah, there's no quality of life there. But yeah, it was difficult to see him like whatever. And then all of a sudden he's like, poof, like a little bunny, like he just perks up and just hops around. Like it was really crazy to see like him being lethargic too, up and at him.
yeah, it's wild.
And then he ate a lot, like when you made us Philly cheesesteaks. Like he was just super happy to be participating.
Yeah, it's strange, really strange behavior.
Yeah, it's hard to, it's like day to day. You have to be on guard. That sucks.
Yeah. And it's, you know, if it were just him, I would say, okay, you know, it's just him, but it's not just him. It's so many other people that are having similar issues with their animals, you know, so something is happening.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But anyway, I wanted to review this article. Are we being farmed by insectoids? Alien insectoids. And see what you guys think. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, Born and Reborn says our dog's eyes have been bothering her in recent months, bloodshot and creating lots of eye boogers. Yes, same with Coco. That was another symptom he was having, really red, bloodshot eyes, draining a lot. So I will wash them out with like I'll just use saline or contact lens solution to wash his eyes out. And then put a little bit of ointment or drops in there to keep them wet, because that was also one of his symptoms. My ear canals are also, I also have issues with my ears, Joanna. They feel, I don't get like the tinnitus and the ringing like people get, but I feel sensations. I don't know how to describe them, but they're just, yeah, it's just sensation. Sometimes it's just one ear, sometimes it's both. Okay. Are we being farmed by alien insect DMT entities? The earth is a farm. We are someone else's property, says Charles Fort. What does the shaman Carlos Castaneda, out-of-body expert Robert Monroe, DMT users, and a host of other psychic explorers have in common? I'm having total deja vu right now. They all report a certain kind of experience involving insectoid entities farming their negative emotions and feeding off of them. Here's a typical DMT user report. In short, I felt like I was being farmed. This wasn't a bad, evil things are sucking my soul type experience. It felt symbiotic. I received information and they received something they needed. Soon after, I felt myself opening my mouth or being urged to. I decided this was okay, so I did. It felt like things were being put into me. At first, I thought of the surgeon experience ages ago, but then it struck me. I was being milked or something. It was okay. I felt symbiotic, not exploitative, but this could just be me being delusional. I don't know. I do remember feeling cared for, not as an equal though, more like a pet or a cow.
Crazy.
The warmth of the embrace I felt made me drift away and not care, which is interesting because that's how they operate a lot of times, like in our sleep state.
Mm-hmm.
Like they make us just not care what's happening because we're so tired that we just
Oh,
fall.
they just like love to put in that fatigue.
Yeah.
And they put like screens like of other things. So it doesn't, they're like, nothing to see here. Just a
Yeah.
couple of, some nice scenery. And I'm like, I know I'm getting attacked. And then I'm like, oh, I'm so tired.
I'm too tired to care.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I'll deal with you tomorrow.
Yeah. Occasionally, I felt like my hair was being tousled, like you'd scratch a cat behind the ears. I went with it. During this phase, I felt like there was an exchange of information going on, but this was very one sided. The way an adult would distract and manipulate a toddler. I came to realize I was being distracted with information so that they could do what they wanted. Feed, harvest, I don't know, but it didn't matter, despite sounding so freaky. It was like I was just now aware of something that always happens, not something new or to be feared. So I think it's interesting that he talks about them like the connection was like an adult and a toddler, because it's like even with these entities and even in the new age community, like we have this idea of the aliens or Pleiadians or whoever is like these parents, like they're somehow our parents and we're just the children, and there's that kind of parent-child relationship there.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was interesting. And he says, sometime during this process of distraction where I was receiving wonderful information and insights. So that's it. They give you the information and insights as they're like sucking your life force energy.
Right.
That I can, he goes on to say that I can no longer recall, of course, because they wipe your memory. They give it to you for that brief moment and then they take it away.
Yeah, I always feel like the memory wipe is the moment you open your eyes back into the matrix.
Yeah.
And I know it too. I'm conscious of it. Like, I know, like, if I have a dream and I'm like, okay, you have to know it now. You got to remember it because when you open your eyes, it's gone. And then I'm like sleeping or whatever. And then I just open them and I'm like, yeah, it's gone. Like, it's gone.
You know what I do? I try not to open my eyes all the way. I reach for my phone. I open the notes section and I just turn on the microphone and start speaking my dream before I open my eyes all the way.
Yeah, I can't do that.
If it's a good one and like I have the energy to do that.
No, actually what I do, not in that way, but I mean like, because I'll remember it if I say it out loud instead of my eyes opening. So I'll just like
Oh,
write it, like say it, and then that way when I open my eyes, I have it.
we should go over that article next. The one on Wayne, Tricked by the Light, on his website about that NDE. We should go over that next. But that night I read that, I had a dream. Remember, I woke up.
Yeah, you woke me up. It was so funny. Yeah, you're just like, I just had a dream of Wayne. He's showing me the Matrix. I'm gonna like go, oh, what did he tell you? You're like, I don't know. I'm gonna go back in and figure it out. And then you just kind of like lied back down and closed your eyes. And I was like, wow, I got it. I go, that's pretty impressive that you could do that. I was saying that in my head because I didn't want to interrupt in case Wayne was there, But I was like, it was just the way you did it. You're really like, you just.
Well, I was so impressed by that article and that interview. I'll have to post it down below for you guys. Definitely worth the read. It's very long, but the NDE that this guy had was extremely detailed, even to the point that on his way back to Earth, he stopped and had this whole interaction with the Demiurge, or who we would call the Demiurge, or like the god of earth, of this world, and made all these agreements with him as he was coming back in. Anyway, it's fascinating. But I read through the article that night, and then I dreamt that I was with Wayne. What's his name? Wayne Bush? Is that his name? Wayne Bush?
Maybe.
Trickedbythelight.com. And Wayne was showing me about the Matrix and the soul trap and all these things. And yeah, I went back to sleep, like hoping that dream would pick up, but I have no memory after that, if it did or not. I don't know. But yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, because I remember the next day I asked you, I'm like, okay, so what did Wayne say? And you're like, what are you talking about? And I was like, oh man. That was the best.
Gone, totally gone.
Yeah, you're like, had you not said that, I never would have like even thought about it.
Yeah. Hold on 1 second. I have to let Coco in.
Oh.
I'll be right back.
Let's see the comments. See ya, Kevin. Thanks for coming in. Yeah, okay, so good. It is true, Wayne Bush.
Okay.
I'm just looking at the comments. I have a lot of crying because of this, so my emotions are strong. It's okay to have strong emotions, Cindy, as long as you're giving yourself the permission to feel it. That way you're not holding it, or your body's not holding it.
Yeah. Okay, so he says, sometime during this process of distraction where I was receiving wonderful information and insights that I can no longer recall, I became aware of a disagreement in the gathered host. Something along the lines of, oh, why are you even bothering to show him that? He can't understand it and won't be able to bring it back. That's why I describe the interaction as an exchange. It wasn't like I was being bullshitted with nonsense that I know of, but there was a definite power imbalance at play. Isn't that interesting how they say he can't understand it and won't be able to bring it back?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. This feeling of being opened and inserted, fed upon, came and went throughout the experience, both in the peak stages and during the come down phase following. It was almost like I was giving myself to one thing, which would detach, and a little while later, something else would return. During these stages, I would have recurring flashes or images of some jellyfish-like creature or something like an octopus with suckered tentacles. Whatever it was, I felt like I was connecting to the tendrils or the tentacles during this feeding phase.
Wow. We always see a lot of octopus, I find. Have you seen any jellyfish or something or the like? I don't remember.
You described them as octopus-like beings. We just saw one last night.
Yeah, like sitting on the head.
It was sitting on her head. And not only that, but it was, yeah, the tentacles were feeding from her, right? And then it was connecting into the World Wide Web, like the metaverse, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was connected to the shots. And that was a really severe case where she's hearing voices. Like she's hearing these voices that are threatening her, using her vulnerabilities against her, things like trying to isolate her and make her feel crazy and alone, that she's the only one this is happening to, and things like that.
Right.
Really wild. But yeah. So here's another DMT experience.
Sorry, I'm late. So DMT is the, like, do they do it on purpose?
Yeah.
It's like a test
It's like a psychedelic
study.
type experience.
But is this like a study that they're doing on purpose, like taking DMT to?
No, I think these are just people's experiences that have taken it.
Okay.
It's the active ingredient in ayahuasca that you can smoke.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
He says, I saw that in some sense, our planet is nothing more than a factory farm for souls. All of our human concerns are but an anthill to these creatures. I saw in all graphic details what these horrible insect aliens were doing to us. I could see them operating on us and harvesting us with all the care that we show to the lower life forms on this planet. And it wasn't simply an image that I saw. It was less of an image and more of a complete mental realization. It triggered in me, and I was overwhelmed by the immediate sense of having reached the ultimate and highest point in human existence and understanding. So, yeah, and that's why we see, like, when we see abductions that happen, the way that they treat the humans that they abduct and experiment on are just like humans would treat like mice or monkeys or dogs that we, not us, but humans experiment on, like they're just objects. There's no care or compassion for what they're feeling or experiencing during these experiments. That's how they view us when they're doing these things to us.
Yeah. Just in a reflection state, not criticizing this article at all, but in a, because we do like to question a lot of things. Do you think this could be just like accounts, like how we have seen NDEs? How it's all the advertising stuff, and now this is an advertising of the farming. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, anything's possible, right? They show us what they want us to see.
Right. So I'm just putting some pieces together of maybe perhaps similarities or possibilities, that there are so many pieces of this grandiose puzzle that we can't say that this is absolutely it and this is absolutely it, but that all can exist at the same time. So we could be farmed, we could be put on a conveyor belt and going to the light and getting a thing, like I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like, it's possible that they all exist, within this matrix, because it's so inverted and because everyone's having that experience. Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm clear, but I'm just looking at it like, is this another?
You think the loosh idea and the farming idea could be an insert to make us believe that we're being farmed?
Yes. However, like, is it like, I believe in the loosh. I know I'm a great buffet. Like, and I've seen people being buffets, so I'm not discounting that. But could this be like another set where our focus is just, this is it, and then you can't see outside of that?
Right. Well, I think
that's
that's an important point to make. And I think when you are viewing these kinds of topics that can get
like, I don't get too attached, or I don't think
right.
people should get too attached
Right.
to this. Like, you might have variety of DMT takers that are having very similar accounts, but not to take that as the absolute truth, because there are people who have had NDEs and they have had similar accounts, but they're two opposing things. So to say that they could all exist all at the same time, it's just that we don't know. Like, none, if either or may not be true, or they could all be true. Like, I don't know.
I think it's important when viewing any kind of information in this world to not attach to it. It's just really for entertainment purposes, really. I mean, that's how I view it. It's just like,
yes, no, I'm saying more disclaimer for, it's not for me, like, because I'm on the same page as you, but I'm just saying for the audience.
yeah, like viewing it as a detached observer without, getting emotional about it and taking it as absolute truth. I think we need to view everything in this reality from that lens, and
Yeah. I
because
find it to get so passionate about it, and it's like takes away from the whole point. Like you don't see the point.
right.
The whole
You
picture.
lose the point. Yeah.
Yeah.
You lose the point when you get too hyper focused on.
Yeah. And you're already sticking your belief system and view. Like my belief system is correct. So I mean, like there's nothing outside of that belief system. But it's just like, just look at all the information. You don't like sift through it.
Well, when you do that, you stop questioning it. You really, that's at the point when you stop questioning and you're only just reinforcing your own belief system that this is
Right.
a loose farm and a soul trap and et cetera,
Right.
et cetera, and it's just a negative feedback loop. That's not what we want to do here. We're just presenting this information as a possibility. And
it's interesting because it's like, you see things in a different way. Like,
right, because we have seen these insectoid beings and we, have had experiences with them. So it's interesting to see other people's experiences with them. And, yeah, I mean, really, it's just for entertainment purposes. Disclaimer.
oh,
Okay, on to the next. Okay, so this one is from a trip on magic mushrooms. A couple of us decided to take heroic doses of psilocybin mushrooms one evening. I chewed down 4 grams, retired to my tent, closed my eyes, and got horizontal on my air mattress. As the effects of the shrooms came on, my inner vision revealed what looked like a dank, moss green hospital emergency waiting room. I seemed to be sitting on a bench in this room, and it occurred to me that it was odd that there were no patients being wheeled in or out. Kind of quiet for an ER. After some time, I noticed a few off-white football-sized larvae floating 3 or 4 feet off the ground in various spots. Following one of these with my eyes, I then saw an insectoid entity about the size of a small dog, whose back was facing me. It had long mosquito-like proboscis that I could only partially see. Suddenly it turned, and, realizing that I saw it, it made a high-pitched, buzzing, shrieking sound. I got the impression that it was sending out a warning alarm. The entity then initiated telepathic communication with me, explaining that it was quite surprised that I could see it, as this usually didn't occur. It said that it lived by extracting human thought and emotion. Human thoughts were both the currency of its species as well as their sustenance energy source. The needle-like proboscis. Sorry, Coco's barking.
oh, you gotta let him out.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to take him out.
I'll read.
Are you gonna read?
I'll read. Excuse my reading, people.
I'll scroll it down for you.
Here, are you coming back?
By the time you're done.
Okay.
Okay.
The needle-like proboscis was looking less friendly by the minute. I was given the impression that, as the coin of its kind, different types of thought, emotion were valued differently. Those with a more intense energy charge, such as fear or love, were worth more. The entity explained that it existed in another dimension so that it could feed off of human thought unhindered. I got a feeling that the relationship wasn't symbiotic. Perhaps these thought drainers somehow suck life energy from humans, along with mental energy. Yeah, I bet. I'm sure. I'm just like reflecting on myself or how many people are being. I totally get the whole loosh thing. Like I see it, I feel it, and everybody's pretty much. I mean, like everyone who comes to our practice is there. There's a lot of trauma there, and not knowing how to deal with it, because it's like there's always problems that are recurring or coming back and so on and so forth. So, our goal in helping these people is so that they can help with their points of vulnerability, so that they don't feed the matrix or whatever is feeding off of them within this, this space. It's so frustrating. Okay. Where am I? It claimed that it was the psychic equivalent of an actual insect that feeds on blood, skin, etc., with regard to the extent of any damage it might do to those on whom it fed. Yet I had a nagging feeling that it might not be telling me the whole truth. Maybe these creatures had some influence on inciting wars or disasters in the human realm. The experience left me feeling unsettled for some time afterwards. Yeah, I bet. Hashtag.
Yeah.
No, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think, again, like we always explain that, things are like, it is like parasites. There's just people that are, could be parasitic or vampiric or whatever it is that sucks your life.
Right. Everything is designed to drain your life force energy, especially when you're not aware of what's happening in this world and
Right.
how parasitic it is. You're just constantly just giving away your energy and you end up completely drained and not understanding why you're anxious and depressed and can't get a grip on life. And it's because you're constantly being fed from, whether it's from entities or entities working through other people, So that's why we share this information, because knowledge is power. And when you know these things, you can do something about it, you know? Like you can empower yourself not to give away your energy, not to be fed upon.
Right.
That's really the point of why we share this.
Totally. There's entities involvement and there's also parasitic involvement, because they can, like Tina was saying earlier about how they could manipulate your thoughts or make you think certain things or whatever, which could be also the reason why we have looping thought forms and they just keep cycling and cycling and feeding and linking and blah, 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 for this very reason, to continue the food chain for them.
Right.
And for entities to feed on, like it, yeah, this all sucking the life.
Yeah.
Getting you out of presence, like taking away your power.
Right. Yeah. And it's just like it said, it claimed that it was the psychic equivalent of an actual insect that feeds on blood, skin, etc.
Damn mosquitoes.
Yeah.
Sounds like mosquitoes that have no purpose here.
Yeah. Yeah, but that really is the whole point, is that we can take back our power. And the more that we do that, the less that they have to feed on, because they're looking for that. They're looking for you to be unconscious and unaware that you are in a negative looping thought pattern, and spiraling down in that all the time. Most people think that that is normal, that that's the normal way to be. But it's not. It's really not. Like you can get yourself to a place where you're not in a negative looping thought pattern, or even just thoughts in general, whether they're negative or not, and that you can do that by practicing presence, bringing yourself back to the present moment over and over and over again, and not giving energy to those thoughts, not consenting to those implanted thoughts, because that's what they're feeding from when they send you down into those spirals.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this is another mushroom trip. In 2019, I did a 6-gram eyes closed trip where I felt like these green mantis-like creatures were sniffing around for painful memories and extracting them. One seemed annoyed that I was aware of it and was like, "Just let me do my job, please." They seemed kind of rude and possibly even overworked, but probably helpful overall. I didn't have another big trip until this past weekend. This time they were back and more vivid. They wanted to poke around inside me and led me to painful thoughts and memories. Seemed like they wanted to wring out emotion, almost like a liquid, and harvest it.
Sweet. That's also part of my nighttime protection ritual of not consenting to siphoning or harvesting of my energy or sexual energy. Like, but
Yeah,
they keep trying. I don't know like why we still do it, to be honest. It's like I do it anyway just in case, because I can only imagine if I don't.
right. Well, and we've talked to people before where it's interesting that they say the way they talk about it, it's like they talk about it almost as if they're having a life review in the present moment. So what the entities do is they're digging up past memories of when you felt shameful or humiliated or embarrassed or anything painful that they can drag up from the past into the present. They will do that. So when he's talking here about them uh, sniffing around for painful memories, that's kind of like when people describe this like life review that's happening. That's what they're doing. They're bringing those things forward so that they can then feed on the pain that that energy causes. So that's another way. And it was really interesting to me. One of our clients, he hadn't even told us about that was happening, but after his session and after the entities were cleared, that completely stopped happening to him altogether. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting. And someone else right around that same time period was experiencing a very similar thing. And she also said that it stopped. Like there was no more like constantly going back into the past because those entities weren't dragging the memories forward anymore.
Yeah.
Well, like mentally, consciously, you can know, like, I forgive myself for those things I did in the past, but it's like they wouldn't stop picking at those like old scabs.
That's me. I mean, that was me. Like, it doesn't happen anymore nearly as much as it used to, where I would just be in a constant looping and beating myself up and sabotaging myself or bringing up things so that I could feel shameful all the time.
Mhm.
Yeah, it doesn't happen as much.
Yeah. And that's why the healing's so important, right? Because they know our vulnerabilities. They know what is painful for us. So they're going to pick those specific things in order to bring those up um, until we get to a place where we heal them. So if it's that you're really sensitive to how people see you, like you're very sensitive to other people's thoughts and opinions about you, they will keep throwing that at you in your life, until you're at the point where you just don't give a shit anymore what people think of you,
Right.
because they won't be able to feed off of you anymore when you get to that point. So it's always about healing and empowerment.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So this time, this is the same guy or girl, and they say, unlike last time, this time I started to wonder if it wasn't such a symbiotic relationship. Were they more parasitic, nefarious, using my feelings as some kind of natural resource?
Deaf.
Yeah. Oh, look at that creepy.
Oh, it's like doing a pose or something.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Munchie's pose. She puts her arms up.
Yeah. Just gonna check the comments real quick. Yeah. I guess if these entities can influence a person to traumatize others, then they get a ton of loosh. Yeah.
Yeah, Sam G says they wake me up at 3 a.m. with stuff I'm mad about. Totally. They
Mhm.
wake up Tina to go get a snack.
Yeah. That doesn't happen as much anymore. Like I don't have the nighttime snacking thing.
That's
Um,
fine.
yeah.
It's true. But mind you, like before we go to bed, we do have conies.
Yeah.
Like,
Before we go to bed now.
ice cream.
Yes, OCD, like thoughts and behaviors can definitely be influenced by entities.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. So Robert Monroe, whom I'm sure we've all heard about. So he was the first to popularize the word loosh in his 1971 book, Journeys Out of the Body and Out of Body Experiences. Assisted by specialists in psychology, medicine, biochemistry, psychiatry, electrical engineering, physics, and education, Monroe developed HemiSync, a patented audio technology that is claimed to facilitate enhanced performance for astral travel. During one trip, he experienced something similar and said we were being farmed for our loosh. Now, if we agree that these entities only show us what they want us to see or know, then we have to also question why this entity would share this information with Robert Monroe in the way that he did. What was the
Point.
yeah,
And then that
the agenda?
they have a good thing going, no?
Yeah, what was
You
the
don't know?
behind that, right? If we are all in agreement that we don't trust entities, but we're all trusting that this information that was given to Monroe was true and that loosh is a thing and all of that, then we're kind of being hypocritical in a way because we're not questioning what the agenda behind that was. Why did they give this information to him? Because look how it has spread and become so prevalent, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So just a thought to put out there. Loosh is Monroe's term for quantifiable spiritual/emotional energy produced by physical beings such as humans, a highly valued commodity in the eyes of non-physical beings who feed upon this energy. Although not its only function, the matrix acts as the machinery which extracts loosh from humans by subjecting them to synchronistically arranged emotional melodramas.
You could scroll down, I will read. This is much like the Gnostic with archons, something like fallen angels. Angels or angels? Okay, so this is what he writes. What then is the interest of the archons in opposing the exodus of the soul from the world? The Gnostic answer is thus recounted by Epiphanius. They say that the soul is the food of the archons and powers without which they cannot live, because the soul is on the dew from above and gives them strength. Actually, the Hermetica also states disembodied astral spirits latch onto every newborn, from whence the passions come. This idea is also found in the Vedic tradition of India, where it is explicitly, stated in the, sorry, I don't have my glasses on, that the devas, the gods, feed off of human energy. Man is like a beast from the devas. For verily, as many beasts nourish a man, thus does every man nourish the devas. If only one beast is taken away, it is not pleasant. How much more when many are taken? Therefore, it is not pleasant to the devas that men should know this. Right? Exactly. So, I mean, if the entities gave that information about the loosh, why would they say that when they have a great buffet going, like I said?
Right.
So is this like another type of belief system that they want people to consider? Yes, I do feel that there is truth in that.
Yeah.
But it does, yes, make you wonder, like, what is the other flip side of it?
Yeah. Why, if it's to their advantage for us not to know, then why would they tell us?
Right. I like Sam. She's like, maybe he thought Monroe would forget.
Yeah, maybe he survived the memory wipe.
Yeah, that's true. I have not seen the Dark Crystal. Have you seen the Dark Crystal?
Oh my God, yeah. Didn't they just come out with a remake of that?
Maybe. It sounds
That's
familiar, but I don't know.
yeah, that's another one that goes along with the labyrinth, right?
Oh, true.
Muppets.
Yeah. Yes, yes. Thank
Yeah.
you for reminding me. It seems that doing protection rituals before bed, just in case, would be considered a compulsion. That's true. But again, like, I feel like we cannot be lazy. I really make it a point to do it because I have children. We have an old dog. We have each other, and especially in the line of work that we do, like we can't get lazy. That's the thing, you know. I will be fucking tired, but I will make it a point to protect my family. Like that is just it.
Yeah. 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 I think if someone has OCD and they're not entity aware and you're telling them
Oh,
about,
and I'm not doing it out of fear. That's another thing.
right. Yeah. That's important too. You're doing it out of love for your family.
Yeah, and myself.
Right. Yeah. As far as the OCD thing goes, if someone's not entity aware and you're telling them, and they already have OCD and you're telling them that it's from psychic attacks, yeah, it's going to induce more fear because that person's not empowered.
Mm-hmm.
It would take some education and empowerment to get them to the place where they understand what's happening and then not to be fearful of it and not feed into it. So that's kind of a long haul kind of situation.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So you just exactly what you just said. So he had said, my partner has OCD, and when I tell her that her intrusive thoughts are psychic attacks from entities, that just creates more fear and paranoia, thus more OCD. Exactly.
Yeah. Michael and Sam said they have to tell us because we have to agree to consent. That's one idea. However, what about for the thousands of years before we learned about Loosh? Like we didn't know anything about Loosh then and they were still doing it. So how did they get our consent? You know, like, so I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, Jeff. But the solution to the OCD is similar. Don't engage, don't entertain the thoughts, don't take the bait. Yeah. I mean, but you have to be conscious, aware, and willing, especially willing to push through that, because I had OCD to the point like where what I know now is like the entities were entities that were implanting thoughts in my head that if I didn't do certain things, that I something bad would happen. And they would, and I guess either coincidentally or synchronistically or whatever the case was, that something would happen after that. So to only push further the OCD,
Right.
to continue the compulsion until I had to, I guess, get so fatigued enough to forget to do my routine and be like, okay, not that bad. And it would wither, you know. I find it's like it was easier to let go, like when, but it had to be like that because like they've proved so many more times that something would happen if I didn't. So yeah, it really depends on people and how much they're willing, or you know, and also because of their wounds and traumas and how much they're even willing to be conscious of it, or etc. There's so many factors involved.
Yeah.
Muppets on myth, totally. Like the labyrinth.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So Monroe experienced an energy probe that entered his forehead and began exploring his mind for something he couldn't comprehend. Quote, it had intelligence of a form beyond my comprehension, and it came directly into my head. and seemed to be searching every memory in my mind. I was truly frightened because I was powerless to do anything about this intrusion. About a week later, the same thing occurred again, only this time he became aware that the something that the entities were searching for was related to some form of energy within his psyche. I got the impression of huge pipes, so ancient they were covered with undergrowth and rust. Something like oil was passing through them, but it was a much higher in energy than oil, and vitally needed and valuable elsewhere. Assumption not on this material planet. This has been going on for eons of time, and there were other force groups here, taking out the same material on some highly competitive basis. And the material was convertible at some distant point or civilization for something very valuable to entities far above my ability to understand. This high energy substance, something like oil, of course relates directly to the Gnostic conception of dew extracted from the human soul. About 2 weeks later, the entities invade Monroe's psyche again. After they've finished their mind probe and leave his body, he describes it thus. Then they seemed to soar up into the sky, while I called after them, pleading. Then I was sure that their mentality and intelligence were far beyond my understanding. It is an impersonal, cold intelligence with none of the emotions of love or compassion which we respect so much. Yet this may be the omnipotence we call God. Visits such as these in mankind's past could well have been the basis for all of our religious beliefs, and our knowledge today could provide no better answers than we could 1,000 years past. So, really interesting about this high energy substance, because in one of our sessions, we saw that they were using the loosh or this substance to create new souls.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yes.
That was the conclusion we came to, which would be valuable because that would give them more energy to feed upon.
Right. Right.
Which is probably why there's so many souls incarnated on the planet right now. He says, by this time it was getting light, and I sat down and cried, great deep sobs as I have never cried before, because I knew without any qualification or future hope of change that the God of my childhood, of the churches, of religion throughout the world was not as we worshiped him to be, that for the rest of my life I would suffer the loss of this illusion.
Yeah.
So basically he's saying that these, whatever these entities were like the gods of this world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is a crushing illusion, especially when you
Have given your life to it.
yeah, and you study also like the Gnostic texts, and understanding that the creator of this world is not the ultimate one, but a lower creator god, like a Demiurge or Yaldabaoth or whatever you want to call it, that created this mimicked, inverted version of the real world and trapped us in these human bodies so that they can feed on us. So, yeah.
Just that alone could cause a psychosis.
Yeah. I remember, speaking to someone who's very much awake, but still with a very much Christian bent. And I approached her with that information, and it was too much to even look at, to even consider that the God that you've been worshiping all your life is actually, you know, what you would actually call Satan or the devil, or, you know, any of those words, all describing the same thing, which is the prince of this world, the material world. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very wild.
Totally.
Yeah. So he's experiencing this suffering, the loss of this illusion. So in the book, the entity that he's talking to is called someone, and the place he's describing is called somewhere. So he says someone, somewhere, or both in millions or uncountable, requires, likes, needs, values, collects, drinks, eats, or uses as a drug, a substance identified as loosh. Electricity, oil, oxygen, gold, wheat, water, land, old coins, uranium. This is a rare substance in somewhere, and those who possess loosh find it vital for whatever it is used for. Faced with this question of supply and demand, a universal law of somewhere, someone decided to produce it artificially, so to speak, rather than search for it in its natural form. He decided to build a garden and grow loosh. So this is the creation of Earth. And it's very similar to the Gnostic of Yaldabaoth and the creation of this world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As the road unfolds, we learn how someone seeded his garden, obviously planet Earth, and evolved life forms upon it to eventually produce human beings. He then appointed collectors to gather the loosh/emotional energy from the Earth's entities, among whom humans are by far the best producers. Someone, his work completed, returned to somewhere and occupied himself with other matters. Loosh production stayed at a constant level under the supervision of the collectors. Quote, the loosh harvest initially involved the creation of natural disasters, earthquakes, hurricanes, etc., to kill off large numbers of creatures. Since loosh was easier to gather upon the deaths of the organisms generating it. So initially they would collect the loosh only upon death.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was discovered forms of stress generated in the human population would release loosh without having to kill the organism. This was because someone, as an experiment, injected a piece of himself into the human species. This was done to maintain more or less constant stress in each individual, since the human would always seek to satisfy the attraction this tiny mote of himself engendered as it sought reunion with the infinite whole.
It reminds me of Monsters Inc. and how they got, loose from the children, or how some people call it adrenochrome or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
Getting an emotional reaction by scaring them. And then, yeah, same shit.
Yeah. What I thought was interesting is that he put a piece of himself into the human species to maintain constant stress.
That's fucked up.
Yeah. Seek to satisfy the attraction this tiny mote of himself engineered as it. Okay, so this tiny part of himself that say is within each of us is constantly seeking reunion with the whole. So that's why it's constantly in stress. Because it's trying to get back to the whole, and that's why it feels isolated and separated.
Wild.
Yeah.
Interesting theories.
From experience, the collectors have evolved an entire technology with complementary tools for the harvesting of loosh from the type 4M, the human. The most common have been named love, friendship, family, greed, hate, pain, guilt, disease, pride, ambition, ownership, possession, sacrifice. And on a larger scale, nations, provincialism, wars, famine, religion, machines, freedom, industry, trade, to list just a few. Luge production is higher than ever before. So it's not just, the negative emotions. It's everything that we generate.
Right. Yeah. It's all attachment.
Right. So it's not necessarily being like having to be in a positive, like high vibrational state all the time is like you're, told in the new age. It's more about being just neutral in a state of like Zen, pretty much, just like peace and content more than happiness. I strive for contentment, like just feeling at peace, just feeling neutral, not swinging the pendulum one way or the other. And as always, it always comes back to balance, right? Not swinging into the extremes of the polarities, but remaining in the middle in the balance energy.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is the Christed energy in that balance.
Yeah.
So this comes from Carlos Castaneda in The Active Side of Infinity. What is at stake now is the advent of a disintegrating force, but not a force that is disintegrating you. I don't mean it that way. It is disintegrating what the sorcerers call the foreign installation, which exists in you and in every other human being. The effect of the force that is descending on you, which is disintegrating the foreign installation, is that it pulls sorcerers out of their syntax. We have a predator that came from the depths of the cosmos and took over the rule of our lives. Human beings are its prisoners. The predator is our lord and master. It has rendered us docile and helpless. If we want to protest, it suppresses our protest. If we want to act independently, it demands that we don't do so. I have been beating around the bush all this time, insinuating to you that something is holding us prisoner. Indeed, we are held prisoner. You have arrived by your effort alone to what the shamans of ancient Mexico called the topic of topics. I have been beating around the bush all this time, insinuating to you that something is holding us prisoner. This was an energetic fact for the sorcerers of ancient Mexico. Why has this predator taken over in the fashion that you're describing, Don Juan? I asked. There must be a logical explanation. There is an explanation, he replied, which is the simplest explanation in the world. They took over because we are food for them, and they squeeze us mercilessly because we are their sustenance. Just as we rear chickens in chicken coops, gallineros, the predators rear us in human coops, humaneros. Therefore, their food is always available to them. But how can they do this to us? Do they whisper all that in our ears while we are asleep? No, they don't do it that way. That's idiotic. They are infinitely more efficient and organized than that. In order to keep us obedient and meek and weak, the predators engage themselves in a stupendous maneuver. Stupendous, of course, from the point of view of a fighting strategist. A horrendous maneuver from the point of view of those who suffer it. They gave us their mind. Do you hear me? The predators give us their mind, which becomes our mind. The predator's mind is baroque, contradictory, morose, filled with the fear of being discovered any minute now. Which is what I think was being referred to in Monroe's book when they were saying like that someone implanted part of himself into us, which is the mind, which is probably the reptilian mind, which is what keeps us in fear and worry and like all of those things.
Right.
In his book, Breaking Open the Head, Daniel Pinchbeck describes meeting negative autonomous entities that continued to haunt him for weeks after his trip with DMT. a DMT molecular variant called DPT. So once we discover that we have that reptilian mind, then we have the ability to empower ourselves and not give power over to that anymore. Because ultimately, that's what these entities are. When they're coming into our minds, you know, looking for these painful memories, bringing up these painful memories and looping our thoughts and all of feeding off of that energy and everything. They're doing that from that part of our brain, from the reptilian part of our brain, you know, the part of our brain that is not critically thinking. Right. But the more what's it called, yeah, the more primitive areas of our brains is what they're picking at to keep us in that survival mode. Yeah. Instead of like thriving in life, but just keeping us always in survival.
Yeah.
So Pinchbeck was subject to a terrifying world of gothic insects, lizards, and winged creatures, describing it as postmodern, demonic, MTV psychedelic. In the weeks following, he had strange synchronicities, bizarre dreams, and what he describes as a poltergeist in his apartment. Mirrors fell off the wall in the night, strange foreign bugs appeared, and unusual physical sensations plagued him. He confirmed the presence of negative energy with others and held an exorcism to rid himself of them. Of course, these insect creatures sound a lot like the insectoid aliens UFO abductees have reported. Well, it's interesting. What caught my attention was the mention of strange foreign bugs, because the last few days I've seen bugs that I've never seen in my life before, like that big yellow beetle thing and a couple other ones that were flying around. Mm-hmm. It seems that they're coming around more and more. Yeah, so these are some of the ancient depictions of the insectoids. Other serpent-type reptilian entities are common. Anthropologist Michael Harner was one of the first Westerners to participate in an indigenous ayahuasca ceremony. He received a spectacular vision in which he saw dragon-like creatures that came to Earth fleeing something, perhaps an enemy out in space, after a journey that had lasted eons. They then projected a visual scene in front of me. First, they showed me the planet Earth as it was eons ago, before there was any life. I saw an ocean, barren land, and a bright blue sky. Then black specks dropped from the sky by the hundred and landed in the front of me on the barren landscape. I could see that the specks were actually large, shiny black creatures with stubby pterodactyl-like wings and huge whale-like bodies. Their heads were not visible to me. They flopped down, utterly exhausted from their trip, resting for eons. They explained to me in a kind of thought language that they were fleeing from something out in space. They had come to the planet Earth to escape their enemy. The creatures then showed me how they had created life on the planet in order to hide within the multitudinous forms and thus disguise their presence. Before me, the magnificence of plant and animal creation and speciation, hundreds of millions of years of activity, took place on a scale and with a vividness impossible to describe. I learned that the dragon-like creatures were thus inside all forms of life, including man. Again, with the reptilian DNA, mm-hmm. They were the true masters of humanity and the entire planet, they told me. We humans were but the receptacles and servants of these creatures. For this reason, they could speak to me from within myself. Wow.
That's a hoot.
Yeah.
Imagine hearing that.
Wow. These revelations, welling up from the depths of the mind, alternated with visions of the floating galley, which had almost finished taking my soul on board. The boat with its blue jay-headed deck crew was gradually drawing away, pulling my life force along as it headed toward a fjord, but might, through processes unknown, felt and dreaded, be acquired or reacquired by the dragon-like denizens of the depths. I suddenly felt my distinctive humanness, the contrast between my species and the ancient reptilian ancestors. I began to struggle against returning to the ancient ones, who were beginning to feel increasingly alien and possibly evil. Each heartbeat was a major undertaking. I turned to human help. With an unimaginative last effort, I barely managed to utter one word to the Indians: medicine. I saw them rushing around to make an antidote, and I knew they could not prepare it in time. I needed a guardian who could defeat dragons, and I frantically tried to conjure up a powerful being to protect me against the alien reptilian creatures. One appeared before me, and at that moment, the Indians forced my mouth open and poured the antidote into me. Gradually, the dragons disappeared back into the lower depths. The soul boat and the fjord were no more. I relaxed with relief.
Imagine it's just like the antidote, but the veil's just getting thicker, but it's still there. It's not really going anywhere.
Right, it's not really going anywhere.
Yeah, and they're just like, okay, he can't see us. Let's eat him.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, okay, so you can't see it now. It's still happening.
It's still there, right?
Yeah. I was now eager to solicit a professional opinion from the most supernaturally knowledgeable of the Indians, a blind shaman who had made many excursions in the spirit world with the aid of the ayahuasca drink. It seemed only proper that a blind shaman might be able to be my guide to the world of darkness. I went to his hut, taking my notebook with me, and described my visions to him segment by segment. At first, I told him only the highlights. Thus, when I came to the dragon-like creatures, I skipped their arrival from space and only said, there were these giant bat animals, something like great bats, longer than the length of this house, who said that they were the true masters of the world. There was no word for dragon in Kanibo, so giant bat was the closest I could come to describe what I had seen. He stared up toward me with his sightless eyes and said with a grin, oh, they're always saying that. But they are only the master of outer darkness. He waved his hand casually toward the sky. I felt a chill along the lower part of my spine, for I had not yet told him that I had seen them in my trance coming from outer space. I was stunned. What I had experienced was already familiar to this barefoot blind shaman, known to him from his own explorations of the same hidden world into which I had ventured.
I know. Why was he withholding information? Like as if the shaman don't know what's going on.
It's funny, like even people that come to talk to us about their experiences, like you can feel them holding back. And because the conditioning runs so deep that they're going to be called crazy, or that basically that's it, that they're going to be called crazy.
That's the part we want to fucking hear. Like, tell us all those goodies.
Yeah.
I want to know what you think makes you crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
So we could fix it or something, or so you could be validated or something. Sometimes you just have to let it out and then be around people who are looking or holding a space for you to not feel that way so that you don't feel that way.
Right. Yeah.
So much judgment out there, and I get it. But yeah, I guess people just have to break through all, different kinds. I just saw I Am Wrong, and I was like, oh God.
But if we would all talk openly about our experiences, like we could put the puzzle pieces together, because we all hold pieces to the puzzle. But like that concern of being called crazy is a genuine concern. I mean, we have worked with people that are, have spent time in psych wards because their families deem them psychotic when they're really just being tortured by entities or, So.
Totes.
Oh, yeah. So this next information is from the Law of One material. The connection between reptilian Dracos and the Orion Belt is common in UFO and occult circles. One can look to the Law of One material series of 106 sessions between Don Elkins, a professor of physics and UFO investigator, and Ra, speaking through Carla Ruckert. Ra states that they are a sixth density social memory complex that formed on Venus about 2.6 billion years ago, and that they previously tried to spread this message in Egypt with mixed results. I don't know how I feel about the Law of One material. I think there's a lot of it is like false light.
Yeah, I never resonated with that, so I'm gonna take that like in my body. Like it's not, I don't resonate. I'll get into it.
But they do talk about like the Orion group, which is like the Draco reptilians. And they say that the Orion group uses physical examination as a means of terrifying the individual and causing it to feel the feelings of an advanced second density being, such as a lab animal. So this is like the abduction phenomena, like we were talking about earlier, how they see us like just like lab animals.
Right.
And they say the sexual experiences of some are a subtype of this experience. The intent is to demonstrate the control of the Orion entities over the Terran inhabitant, which when they say Terran, they're meaning Earth, the Earth inhabitants. So they're just demonstrating their control, just like a rapist does. You know, it's always about power and control. It's not about sex.
Right.
The thought form experiences are subjective and for the most part do not occur in this density. So then we have crusaders from Orion coming to this planet for mind control purposes. How do they do this? They follow the law of one, observing free will. Contact is made with those who call. Those then upon the planetary sphere act much as you do to disseminate the attitudes and philosophy of their particular understanding of the law of one, which is service to self. These become the elite. Through these, the attempt begins to create a condition whereby the remainder of the planetary entities are enslaved by their own free will. I don't know what they mean by contact is made with those who call.
I don't know. Because then nobody's in 5D right now. I'm sure they've all called the aliens to come and get me. ET. ET phone home.
So what is their purpose? The purpose of the Orion group, as mentioned, is conquest and enslavement. This is done by finding and establishing an elite, which they've done, causing others to serve the elite through various devices such as the laws and others given by this entity. In her channel material, Barbara Marciniak provided a surprisingly analogous explanation of an agenda dating back to the beginning of the genetic manipulation of humanity. 300,000 years ago, a date close to that given in the Cassiopean transcripts, which are another channeled information. So take it with a grain of salt. She says electromagnetic energies of consciousness can be influenced to vibrate in a certain way to create a source of food. Just as apples can be prepared and eaten in a variety of ways, consciousness can be prepared and ingested in a variety of ways. Some entities in the process of their own evolution began to discover that as they created life and put consciousness into things through modulating the frequencies of forms of consciousness, they could feed themselves. They could keep themselves in charge. They began to figure out that this is how Prime Creator nourishes itself. Prime Creator sends out others to create an electromagnetic frequency of consciousness as a food source for itself. The new owners of this planet had a different appetite and different preferences than the former owners. They nourished themselves with chaos and fear. These things fed them, stimulated them, and kept them in power. These new owners who came here 300,000 years ago are the magnificent beings spoken of in your Bible, in the Babylonian and Sumerian tablets, and in texts all over the world. They came to Earth and rearranged the native human species. They rearranged your DNA in order to have you broadcast within a certain limited frequency band, whose frequency could feed them and keep them in power. So, yeah, I mean, that aligns with what we know about the DNA manipulation and all of that. So whether that's like reptilians or reptilian Anunnaki or Draco, I think they're all kind of the same.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah. Nick Redfern wrote a book called Final Events and the Secret Government Group on Demonic UFOs and the Afterlife. The book was focused on a small, very small group in the US government that was referred to as the Collins Elite. He says it was concerned that the UFO phenomenon was really demonic in nature, and that after we die, we head off to some kind of matrix-like world where our souls are reaped of some kind of strange energy that feeds the creatures of the underworld.
Yeah, I that resonates.
So that's interesting. He also mentions the famous UFO whistleblower Bob Lazar. Lazar said he read at S4 stated that the aliens refer to us, the human race, as what we would call containers. But containers of what? Well, that's where things get controversial. Lazar told George Knapp religion was created so we have some rules and regulations for the sole purpose of not damaging the containers.
Like pods?
I don't know. He says that the aliens referred to us, the humans, as containers.
What are we containing? The buffet?
Our souls? I don't know. Religion was created so that we have some rules and regulations for the sole purpose of not damaging the containers. Anyone know what that means?
Oh yeah, they came to the conclusion that the Earth is a farm and that we are the cattle.
Containers. It is a full moon, isn't it? I think it might be.
Yeah. I forgot to say that. Oh yeah, my sister was asking me today. She was honking at everyone on the phone call. She's like, "What is it, like a full moon?" I was like, "I really don't know." So yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, there's a rainbow today too. Double rainbow.
Mm.
Okay, so yes, this was one of the central themes of the beliefs of the Collins elite. They came to the conclusion that the earth is a farm and that we are the cattle. They came to accept, based on interviews with a number of people who had near-death experiences, theologians, experts on demonology, etc., that these entities essentially harvest and feed upon a poorly defined soul energy upon our deaths.
Oh yeah, we've seen that.
Yeah.
Depending on how strong you are and how, like how degraded the soul is. So again, healing is super important so that you're not a degraded soul.
Right.
So that your spirit isn't tarnished.
Right, because this physical experience can degrade the soul, especially in situations, extreme situations like war and extreme abuse and trauma. In essence, the Collins elite thinks that because these demonic creatures are basically energy based, that our energy feeds and fuels them. The group interviewed a number of NDE witnesses who claim to have seen vast, never-ending soul factories while in a near-death state, and who also claim these gray-like entities process us slaughterhouse/farm-like one by one and extract energy, rather like the idea of a demonic vampire.
Sweet.
Which aligns with what a lot of people have said, like after leaving the body, that the grays are there. to process us, take us into the light.
Right.
So the esotericist Rudolf Steiner said something similar. He says, there are beings in the spiritual realms for whom anxiety and fear emanating from human beings offer welcome food. When humans have no anxiety and fear, then these creatures starve. People not yet sufficiently convinced of this statement could understand it to be meant comparatively only. But for those who are familiar with this phenomenon, it is a reality. If fear and anxiety radiates from people and they break out in panic, then these creatures find welcome nutrition and they become more and more powerful. These beings are hostile towards humanity. Everything that feeds on negative feelings, on anxiety, fear, and superstition, despair, or doubt are in reality hostile forces in supersensible worlds, launching cruel attacks on human beings while they are being fed. Therefore, it is above all necessary to begin with that. With that, the person who enters the spiritual world overcomes fear, feelings of helplessness, despair, and anxiety. But these are exactly the feelings that belong to contemporary culture and materialism, because it estranges people from the spiritual world. It is especially suited to evoke hopelessness and fear of the unknown in people, thereby calling up the above-mentioned hostile forces against them.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which is why we see in our culture today all of these feelings of fear and anxiety being invoked. It's to feed these entities. And which is why we need to work on while we're here is conquering our fear. Because when we leave the body, if we're in fear, then we're in trouble, you know?
Yeah. The pandemic was a massive time for them to completely conquer. And then having people like, receive the kill shot or whatever. And you could see how the world has like totally, the pancake has flipped.
Oh yeah, it's just
It's terrible.
Yeah, culture and society, it's just crumbling right now.
Oh, totally.
The fear is still being pushed. People are still afraid of COVID, still wearing masks, like the
Oh
whole.
my God. Like when I see that still, like people driving in their cars by themselves, like I have the one on a rider face all the time. Just like what? People are still getting tested, and I'm like, okay, I get it. They have their belief system. They believe that it exists. That's why they're still getting tested. That's why they're getting their eighth shot. Like that's why they're still feeding into that narrative. I feel like we are so far from that narrative. It boggles my mind when I still hear the word.
Yeah, I mean,
It's crazy because it's so far away.
yeah, so far.
And people, that is their reality. They're still hyper focused on it and terrified. And it's like, wow, I was like, it's such a great scheme. What a great scheme.
Yeah, because it was all perfectly planned to lead us into transhumanism, into the metaverse.
Oh yeah.
All of it.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, like exactly like what Saratoga Ocean was saying about how the masks were just kind of like slowly getting people into the idea of having something on their face, except not on their mouth. It's like a VR set on the top.
And depersonalizing people,
Right.
making it normal not to see people's faces, not to connect human to human, but to be isolated and not have the human touch and human connection. Yeah, I mean, there's so many, like I have to tip my hat to them because their plan is just,
Fab.
it is.
It's working.
It is
I mean, it
perfect.
worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. A majority of the people. And what's crazy, just sorry, side note, like when I came home, I was getting my mail out and I saw that our, the mayor or whatever of our town, she wrote like a letter and she was saying, she's like, oh, places to discover, and she's like, I was recommended to go to the new VR place to like check out the whatever and everyone should try it, blah blah blah, it's so fun. And I'm like, I bet.
Well, Well, that's the thing. Like, it's going to be so fun and everybody's going to do it and everybody's just going to get
Yeah.
sucked right into it. Like, it's so easy, you know, it's like the next big thing and it's going to be so easy.
Yeah, they're gonna know exactly like, yeah, that's an instant like suck.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Addictive, like hitting everybody's like ADD and addictive tendencies and all the stuff.
You literally don't even need to leave your living room to like, you know, visit the pyramids. You know, you could just put your VR set on.
I don't know. Like, I'm curious just to see what it looks like because to me, like, I think in my mind, the way I imagine it, because I see things in cartoons, right? It's like I put it on, and I'm like, let's go to the pyramids. And I put it on, and it's like fucking pixelated, like Super Mario Brothers, like from original Nintendo. Like,
It's going to be like real life. And after a while, you're literally not going to be able to tell the difference between virtual reality and reality. And it's already happening. It's already happening to teenagers, especially who are gamers. They game so much that they cannot anymore tell the difference between reality and the game because it begins to merge together.
oh no, it's crazy. It's true. When I was seeing like one of those clips about, I guess the Matrix, like with Trinity and Neo, and I was like, man, that Keanu Reeves, he's like really good as a VR. Like he really looks. You can't tell her. You could tell, but him, he merges everywhere.
Yeah, it's going to be so real that you're not going to be able to tell the difference. And it's just the beginning, you know, it's just, you know, so imagine like a couple of years from now what it's going to be like. Yeah, but that's totally the plan because the more time you spend there, the more of your consciousness they're siphoning. So, you know, it's okay to like check it out, but it's again, like with everything, like,
You got to know your limits. You got to know when it's enough or when they got you, when they hooked you.
yeah, don't get hooked.
You got to get checked. You check
Say
yourself.
no.
Yeah.
For real. I mean, if you want to remain like in an organic reality as an organic human, then you have to have rules and limits for yourself about what you allow as far as technology goes, because it is very easy to get hooked in and then you're literally lost in the metaverse. That's what they want. And we see all the time they're already creating replicas of us and avatars in this other reality is already created, you know,
Mhm.
a whole replica of the earth and all of us, every single person on the earth right now has a replica of themselves in the metaverse. Okay, so back to our article. um, Let me see. I'm just gonna scroll down. Okay, so it talks about examples of nations claiming to be ruled by serpent kings. Ethiopia, um, human reptilian included offering each day a beautiful young girl as a sacrifice. In China, Uzi and Nuwa claim to have created humans. Qin Shi Huang, first ruler of China, called the Dragon Emperor, said to have received help from the creature.
I think said kimchi. I was like, I want to eat kimchi.
Some Hindus, the cosmic serpent Anata, claim to have created us. Quetzalcoatl, however you say that, in Mexico and Peru, the snake kings of the Mayans, the serpent Naga king of India and his Nagan children. Yeah, so it's just showing us like all the serpent kings around the world. The mythic dragon or serpent called Wanaba.
Hybrid human snake.
Yeah. Human sacrifice. Yeah, what were they sacrificing these humans to?
All right.
The Aztecs believed their rain god required the tears of children. Priests would hold children captive and make their teeth rot. Nerves exposed, the children would weep in agony before being ritualistically sacrificed. This is established historic fact.
Hey.
1487, 80,000 prisoners were sacrificed on the top of the pyramid. That same codex makes it very clear that a devil instituted the ritual of human sacrifice. The Toltecs were engaged in battle at a place called Netlaupan, and when they had taken captives, human sacrifice also got started as they sacrificed their prisoners. Among them and in their midst, the devil Yaotel followed along. Right on the spot, he kept inciting them to make human sacrifices. So yeah, I mean, that's really the point of sacrifice, that they're sacrificing to these entities.
Oh, Lana's here. Hi, Lana.
Hi, Lana. Physical science reveals nothing in the atmosphere except for air, while divine revelation states that this is the area of the aerial powers, of the spiritual wickedness in high places, who sleep neither day nor night in their effort to harm us. Saint Theophan the Recluse. The end.
Smooth. I love that. That was interesting.
Oh, look at that. Next article, The Great Reset, UFOs, Transhumanism, and the Occult Engineering of the New Man.
Look at that picture.
I'll save that for next.
Look at that face.
Creepy.
Yeah.
That'll be next.
Well, great.
Conclusion.
Conclusion. What a surprise. You know, okay. Just another thing to be on the lookout for. But yeah, interesting that we had all that insect stuff come up and then having that article.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just giving a little people an update on my healing. Still like a work in progress. I feel like I totally aware when it's happening. I felt that like when we were on vacation, I was getting like, like I was trying to, huh?
You mean with the kids? Your
Yeah,
mom?
like I was like a little stressed because we're not home and not in our environment. So it's already like just that whole to get them there was just, ugh. But it wasn't that bad. I found it wasn't, yeah. But I totally know when it's happening.
I thought you did good. I didn't notice any.
Outbursts
No.
or any like rage or not rage, but oh no, because I'm able to feel it in like in my body, so I'm aware when it's happening. So I'm glad that you're able to validate the progress that I made. I feel it though sometimes, but I feel like I'm on it right away before it becomes something or it
But it really, I mean, it's in front of me anyway. I know things are different at home.
they're actually not that bad. Actually, like I'm just saying, like it wasn't actually that bad
But
at home.
like when I saw your interactions with Buggy, it was more just like the nitpicking stuff. Like, where's your socks? Where's your skateboard? Where's your scooter? You know, like it was just like that kind of like nitpicking stuff. And I didn't notice that at all. last time you were here.
Oh, good. Good. Just a little bit. But I was a little irritated because I'm just like, he lost two pairs of socks. Like he gave me two pairs. He gave me two socks. I was like, where's your socks? Can you just put it in the bag? Because we're not home. And he was just like, here you go. He throws like two socks at me that don't match. And I'm like, okay, but where's the cousins? Like where's the sisters of these? And I was like, okay, you know what? We'll just find it tomorrow. I'm not even gonna bother. So I mean, like, yeah, I'm choosing my battles. Like, yeah, no, I know. I'm not. Yeah, I mean, he was wearing flip-flops all week, but I was just still like, why are you wearing socks?
I wasn't sure why he even had socks. Why
Right.
socks?
Because I took the bag that had the socks in it, but I don't know why I put socks on. Anyway. But it's always like still work. Still have a bit of like clients that are still, having like abusive parent things that are coming through. So I'm like, okay, I know I still have work to do. Like it's just I feel like they're post-it notes for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't forget, Karen, you got shit to do. I'm like, yep, I see it. Thank you. So I took that as like my reminder too, because like last week I was reading like another novel, but I totally put down my CPTSD, but I thought like, I mean, I'm not saying I'm done. I'm not, but I was just like, let me just take a break and try to apply my theory in life and be present as much as possible. But it was, yeah, there's still work to do, lots of work. But I thought this vacation was really good for all of us to be together in a different environment. Yeah, I had like a really weird experience with the day that we left actually for our vacation. I woke up in a really altered state, as if there was a like some kind of filter or something overlaid on top of me. And I remember just being outside sitting there, and Tina's like kind of looking at me or whatever, but I'm not looking at anything. I'm staring at something, but I'm not looking at anything. It was really weird. Like I was completely not there, but there because I was behind the screen.
Well, you had like really weird dreams or something that night, right?
Yeah, a lot of weird stuff. Like just leading up to that point, especially like with Coco and not really sleeping so hot. Like we were just up for days too. Like, and I remember I crashed. Like there was some that I just crashed, or I was being attacked while I was sleeping because I didn't move all night.
Oh, that's right. You couldn't get up.
Yeah, I couldn't get up. Um,
But I was up all night.
yeah, you're up. I couldn't hear anything, but I didn't move either. I was only facing the wall or something like that. It was weird. And anyway, so that morning, like that we left, I was just not feeling so good. I felt like it was either like injected with something or I don't know what, but I felt like my body was rejecting something. I was feeling nauseous, and usually when I have nausea, I don't have the vomiting thing. Like I just feel it. And I'm like, okay, it's fine. But in this case, it was like I think I need a vomit. Like I felt it. So the day before, I hadn't really eaten very much either. I was having stomach issues and things like that because I was doing MMS and trying to recover and like trying to heal my gut. And so the day before, I didn't really eat very much. So I was able to throw up and it was all liquid or whatever, but I felt instantly better. Like it was a 180, as if that whatever that filter was gone, or I threw up. I don't know what it was, the poison or some kind of thing.
Yeah. You definitely threw up some kind of poison. And when you asked me, like, what was it? What came through for me was prions.
Right.
Which I thought was interesting because that's not like something I personally would just pull from somewhere, like that word was very specific.
Yeah, I remember that. That was interesting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I started purging right after that. Like, yeah, I kept going to the bathroom and purging and purging and purging and purging. Like
Right.
first night we were out. So that whole day I threw up, and then I was having like all digestive issues, like going to the toilet. Like I went so much that day.
Yeah. So I think they did try to poison you with something. And, the result of like prion disease is something like is neurological symptoms and like mad cow disease, which is where they first found it. So I was connecting that with Coco too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The symptoms he was experiencing with the neurological stuff. So I think whatever was happening to him was also happening to you.
Sweet. I don't know. That's
I
fucking.
know. It's
The
so
whole thing is just like, all right. Like we're all having like these.
and meanwhile, we're just like going about our normal, like being normal, like going to the beach, taking the kids
Yeah.
to the boardwalk,
Like, don't worry. I was just like, don't worry, babe. I'm gonna be good. I'm just gonna let me just vomit a second. I will be right back. And then we're back to it. Like, all right, pack the car. Let's do it. Let's get out of here. Let's get the show on the road. Party time. Like we're going to the beach.
Yeah.
So normal. Getting attacked at night is normal for us. Like that, it's messed up to say, but it's become our normal. But we can't not function in life and create quality of life if we're not, actively choosing to. Could either be victim to it or be like, all right, I'm gonna vomit. Let's get on. We'll deal. I just get a deal.
Yeah. I mean, you're a warrior.
No, I don't feel like it. I don't. Like I can't take pain.
Well, and Amanda said there was something SSP related going on that week too. Right? I can't remember what she was saying, but there was some kind of connection there as well. So it was all connected somehow. But I'm glad that you're feeling better.
Oh, thank
you. Yeah.
Well,
wait. Before we go, tell me about the fairy that you saw.
Yesterday I saw, I know there's a video that Tina posted about me and I kept saying it was dust. I say that because my room is dusty, okay? So it is. It is. So anyway, what was interesting too, again, was I still we had done some work. And so I kept my computer on, had my ring light on while I was, packing for my trip on Friday. And I saw this little tiny body, white. So, I mean, I know when dust flies by my face, I could see it. Okay. Like you see it.
Mm-hmm.
But this was a body. So small. I can't even tell you what the size is, but it's so small. Maybe like 8 millimeters or something. It's tiny. Had a little head, and you see the little arms and legs. And I saw the wings, but it was so fast. White. I said white. And it just kind of went right in front of my eye, where I went into focus. So I was like, I'm sure it scared it. And then it just, until it my mind registered what that was, because I mean, you don't really, I mean, that's not a normal thing to see. But yeah, it just registered, and I was like, oh my God, the fairy was gone already at that point. Almost as fast as my first shooting star that I saw the first night at our camping trip too, which was really cool. I've never seen a shooting star before. So until I was able to register, I'm like, I think that's a shooting star. It's gone. Same thing. I think that's a fairy. It's gone. But able enough to register what it was. I thought both were very the same.
So you believe it's not dust now?
That one was not. I saw the body. The wings. I was stunned. I was like, but really cool.
That is really cool. So it was just you didn't see any facial features or anything?
No, it was a very clear body with wings.
Did it feel male or female?
It was female.
Female.
So feminine all the way. All the way.
Like Tinkerbell.
Yes, but it was all white. I didn't see color. It was just white. Maybe
We
she's
should
full of
set up,
dust.
we should
She's
set up some
full of dust in my room.
we should set up some cameras in your room.
Yeah.
I bet we could catch one like in the bottom because I can see their like the trails of light they leave.
Yeah, I see. I know. I believe you. Like when you say you see the trails of light. Sometimes though, they like I see dust flying sometimes. I see it.
Okay, but they're not dust. Like the orbs that fly
Oh, those ones.
and
Yeah.
around and sideways are not dust. No, they're moving consciously. And there's a lot of them, and they seem to grow over time, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Good night, everyone. Thanks so much for hanging out with us.
Yeah. Yes, thank you very much. Red pill. It is very real. CPTSD. That yeah, definitely work. Work. It's all work.
Yeah.
All the time. Every day.
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm a believer now in the dust. No offense. It's not dust, I know.
Fairies.
No, that was a full body. I cannot deny that was a body with wings.
I wonder if they're all the same or different or what.
That was the first one that I ever saw in full form. So
They've
small.
probably been not wanting to scare you.
Probably. I think she's just like, stop calling me a dust. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm tired.
Yeah. Same. I pick up my kids in the morning, going to visit my parents too. And yeah, I'll be back in the evening. Sorry, that should have been between us. All right, everybody. It was really nice to have you all here. Thank you for sitting around. If you managed to be here from beginning to end or popping in whenever you did and stuck around, we appreciate you, your comments. And
James Caan died?
who's that?
Actor.
I think I know the name.
Yeah. Pay attention to those synchronicities. Those things are real. You know, one of our clients was just talking about how he had a Dr. P clearing and he's noticed that he doesn't have his fear and worry anymore and things are shifting for him and he's having more joy in his life. And he noticed this really cool synchronicity the other day. And it's just like, when you let go of the worry, right? Like if you like start to worry that you're running out of something and you have those feelings of like, oh my God, like I'm lacking something or I'm going to lack something. And you let go of that feeling, you let go of that worry, and you just trust that it's going to work out. It will in the most miraculous of ways. That's how this reality is always reflecting back to us, our state of being. So yeah, I mean, just letting go, having a more positive or even just neutral outlook and not holding on so tightly to those negative feelings of fear and worry and things like that that are dragging us down into that reptilian brain, into the survival and all of those things. But coming up a little bit and into the middle, into a balanced energy, and just being a more neutral observer of the reality and understanding that we do create our own realities. And it's always reflecting back to us our, not what we think, but what we believe and what we believe about ourselves and the world around us. Those things are really important.
Def. That's really good. But yeah, I thought it was synchronistic too that we were talking about how parasites like, to control the mind and stuff. And I didn't even know that we were going to do this topic today, but the shirt that I'm wearing is saying, don't believe everything you think.
Oh.
It says my parasites. Thank you, everyone. We wish you a wonderful evening or morning or day, wherever you are in the world. And we will see you again. I don't know when we're going to be popping back on because I'm going to be out of town this coming Friday, but I will be sure to share adventures probably by the end of the month. So, or maybe we'll hop on again before I leave. So we'll see.
We'll see. All right, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next time. Big love to you. Good
Peace.
night.